Sometimes a life begins with a feeling, a pull towards something that doesn't fully exist yet, a different rhythm, a different landscape, maybe even a life that stretches between two places. But beautiful ideas don't grow simply because we hope for them. They grow when we sit down, look honestly at our lives, and begin shaping them with care. A number here, a decision there, a plan that slowly turns imagination into something real. This chapter of my life isn't about escape, it's about design, about asking a simple question: what would it take to build a life that fits me now? And then, step by step, beginning to build it. Hi everyone. I want to talk about something that I've been really thinking about for the last few years. And that is about splitting my life as much as possible between Canada and Australia. The thing is, I don't want to just think about it. I want to actually design it and plan it. Put it down on paper, look at it step by step, and then hopefully make it a reality, something that comes true. So this is what I want to talk about in this video, is how do you design and plan for a life in two places when you're retired? And I'm not talking about going somewhere for just a couple of months. I'm talking about splitting your time as much as possible. So 4 or 5 months in one country and the rest of the time in the other. So let's talk about that. Hi, I'm Reina, and on my channel, I talk about all things retirement, living in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. All of the ups and all of the downs, and all of the things that can be accomplished in this chapter of our lives. If you're new, welcome here. Something I've learned at this stage of my life is that beautiful lives don't happen just out of thin air. They happen because we choose to take a series of calm, boring, practical steps and do them consistently. So today I'm going to share how I'm going to plan out how I will live in two countries while keeping myself financially grounded, emotionally steady, and also being realistic about what can be achieved and how long this journey will take. I am going to be using a tool called the SMART system, and I will put on screen the steps that are included in this system that will help me plan out on paper how I want to achieve the dream of living both in Australia and in Canada. SMART is an acronym where the S stands for specific, the M is for measurable, the A is for achievable, the R is for relevant, and the T is for time-based. And I will go through in the video a little bit more in detail how I fill out each of those sections. Now, I have to be honest and say that this tool and a few other tools that I've been using for decision making are not something that I came up with on my own. To be honest, I have been in a bit of a turmoil this past few months that I've been in Australia, because I have kind of vacillated back and forth between how I can make this dream happen. And I've gone all the way from, okay, I'm going to buy a place here, I'm going to sell my place in Calgary, have a teeny tiny place there, have a teeny tiny place here. There was this jumble of stuff happening in my brain. It was making me anxious. I was actually feeling this huge amount of anxiety because I couldn't sit down and make things make sense for me. And so for the first time in my life, I actually reached out to a therapist. As I was finding myself going through this period of anxiety, I thought, you know what? I cannot do this on my own. I need a sounding board. I need someone who can make me ask questions in a different way and also help me get the tools I need to make some decisions. For this reason, I decided to reach out to BetterHelp, who is the paid partner on my video. BetterHelp made starting therapy for me very easy. I went on their website and I filled out a questionnaire which allowed BetterHelp to match me with a therapist right for me and my circumstances. What also really works for me is that I can communicate with my therapist in whatever manner is best for myself and is most convenient at the time and place that I find myself in. Right now, I'm doing most of my appointments through video calls, but I can also do them through messaging or through just an audio call. I love the flexibility of that. So right now I'm in Australia, but I will be back in Calgary in a few weeks and I can still continue with my sessions. If the therapist that is suggested for you is not exactly meeting your needs, there's no cost to switching to someone else. It's important that we find the therapist that's just right for us. If you've been thinking in trying therapy out, click on my link in the description below this video or head on over to betterhelp.com/smallretiredlife and get 10% off your first month of therapy. All right, so here is the specific part of my SMART system. In its simplest form, I want to live part of the year in Canada and part of the year in Australia. Really, my goal is around 5 months in Australia and the remainder of the time in Canada. And the reason I want to do it that way is because Canada has a rule that if you're gone out of the country for longer than 6 months, or I think it's like 186 days or something like that, you are potentially going to lose your residency status, and then that would mean that you would not have access to certain things like healthcare, for example. So I definitely don't want to lose my residency status. So I'm thinking 5 months in Australia, 7 months in Canada, and because I do have a month to play with, I can decide maybe to go somewhere else. If I want to go somewhere with my sister for a girls' trip, it gives me a little bit of leeway. Essentially, that's the specific part of my plan. The M part of the SMART system is measurable, and for me that really is taking a look at the money pillars. What is required for me to be able to live part-time in one country and part-time in the other? That is probably the largest obstacle for most people. I live what's called a small retired life, and what that means is I don't have some huge life. I just do everyday things. I live on my own. I don't really travel very much aside from making this one big trip to see my grandchildren here in Australia. But watching my grandchildren grow up is the most important part for me of retirement. I never had family when I was growing up in Calgary because we escaped from the Czech Republic to Canada. And so all of my family, the little of it that I had, was in the Czech Republic, and I never really saw my grandparents too much. They came here a couple of times. But I don't really know my cousin that well. I don't really know anyone. It's important for me to have a relationship with my grandchildren. And to me, the best way to do that is face-to-face and not over some kind of a video call. So I have to fund this, and I'm not wealthy. I have a small retirement savings account that I accumulated during the years that I worked. I'm not taking any pensions as yet, though those will factor in a little bit later. To fund my life in Calgary takes about $3,500 a month. And if I was to fund a life here in Australia, I would probably need to have an extra $5,000 a month, realistically. And so, how do you get that $5,000? For me to actually be able to have this extra life here in Australia, I absolutely have to have a side gig. My current income and my current savings are not enough to fund this extra life. And so YouTube is my side gig. Now, you don't have to do YouTube. You can do other things. But for me, this is my side gig, and this is what allows me to make the extra income that I need to live this extra life. Dreams come with hard work. They're not just something that happen. They're not just luck. I'm not a big believer in luck. You can slay me in the comments for that, but I really believe that we create our own opportunities. Even the guy who wins the lottery has to buy a lottery ticket first. He has to create that opportunity for that good thing to happen to him. So that's just a very simplistic way of looking at it. But I am a big believer that you need to create opportunities. Someone told me once that I'm privileged because I'm lucky enough to live in Canada, and so I have all these opportunities. The reason I live in Canada, because I'm not born there, is because my father took a risk and he planned an escape from a country that at that time was occupied by communism. He planned it. He made sure he had what it took in order to make that possible, and then he took the risk and did it. Hence why I am in Canada. I apply that same process to anything I do in life. Everything that I do is a degree of planning, looking for opportunities, creating opportunities, and sometimes taking a risk. My entire retirement was based on planning early, planning when I was a younger person and accumulating what I needed to be able to retire. And to be able to be here in Australia, I need to do a side gig. I decided to give YouTube a try, although I didn't really have a concept of how I would make money with it. But it turned out that I was able to make money with YouTube. And so YouTube is a part of that measurable plan on how I will fund this trip. Right now, I'm definitely not making $5,000 a month with YouTube, but there are a couple of months where I have made that between brand deals and what AdSense has paid. But most of the months, I do not make that. So I need to up my game a little bit. This is also the reason I haven't stayed here for 5 months straight off kind of the get-go, because I couldn't fund 5 months. My goal is to get to fund 5 months. And so I'm trying to amplify how I do YouTube to cover that off. Secondly, there may come a time where YouTube is not going to work out for me. And YouTube is a very fickle world. It's the entertainment industry, and we all know people lose interest very quickly. My channel might be doing well one day, but the next day it could be, getting smaller. And I have seen some subscribers drop off and my watch hours drop off. So right now I'm making a little bit less money. So I need to plan around those fluctuations. And so I'm thinking that I will at some point sell my townhouse in Calgary and buy an apartment condo instead, something a little bit smaller. And the difference that I will receive from selling my townhouse, because I will get more money for my townhouse than my apartment condo will cost, I will take that difference, invest it, and use the investment income from that to fund my stay in Australia partly. And then also Starting with the end of this year, I will start receiving a small little pension. It's not a lot, probably around $600 and some a month. And when I turn 67 in a couple of years, I will receive what we call our Canada pension plan, which I think will be around another $1,400 a month. So my pensions and the little bit of money I will be able to invest from the sale of my property would actually be able to fund my stay here if I didn't have YouTube. In that measurable section, I plan out different scenarios financially that could work for me in making it a reality for me to be here half the time. Also, in the measurable part of the SMART system, I think about the fact that I need to find a place here in Melbourne that I can stay in for a longer term period of time. And this is something I've been working on while here. I've made a contact with one of my son's friends who potentially would be able to give me a better price if I was to, let's say, stay 4 months. I would avoid paying the typical Airbnb cost, but he could charge a little bit more than the typical rent, so there would be a benefit to both people. So that's another part of the measurable section, because in that part, I'm essentially looking at all of the really practical things that need to happen for me to be able to make my dream come true. The third part of the SMART system, which is the A for achievable, I actually lump a lot of that within the M part because I have to understand what makes sense for me to actually accomplish realistically. Part of that includes the financial aspect, so the measurable side of the equation, but the achievable part also needs to make sense. Because as an example, if you want to lose weight and you say to yourself, I want to lose 100 pounds next week, well, that is not achievable. So I need to very clearly think about the trajectory of the dream. So the first year I was here 6 weeks, then 2.5 months, or then 2 months for the second time, 2.5 months for the third time. And my next goal is 4 months. And that's because when I did the measurable planning, I realized that next year I will probably be able to do 4 months. I don't think I can do 5 months because financially I will not be there. So part of the dream is based on reality. I need to be realistic about the scenario that I'm in and work towards the ultimate dream part of it, of being here 5 months. I allow myself to have a journey within this process. It does not have to happen all at once for me to consider something a success or consider that I finally made my dream come true. I'm just as happy being here 3 months or 4 months or 5 months, and I'm grateful for whatever amount of time I have here. On paper, I try and plan how I'm going to achieve that ultimate 5 months. I recognized when I was sitting down and planning this, and also just discussing this with my therapist, that really patience is a virtue. It's really great to take it in stages because I can. There really is no rush for me to have to do this like right away in the year coming up. I can take a little bit of time. Also, in this section, I think about the fact that this is achievable because I am healthy to travel. I have the ability to travel right now, and that may not always be the case. The R of the system, the relevant, is that these goals and dreams need to support the life that I've always envisioned in my retirement. Is this a part of my plan? Does this make sense for who I am and where I'm at? It needs to make sense also for the time and place that we live in. So as an example, and I hate talking about this, but geopolitics play a big role, as well as my overall health and ability to travel. There's a lot of huge things happening around the world. As we all know, the price of oil has skyrocketed, which will impact the price of travel, because after all, airplanes use jet fuel to get around this wonderful planet of ours. And so ticket prices could potentially go sky high, making certain types of travel untenable for many people. When I'm doing these plans, I'm willing to change things if I need to. I'm willing to adjust them to kind of make sense in the time and place that I'm in. And I have to make the plan relevant to my life and where I'm at in my life and to the retirement that I am living. Some of this stuff is out of my control, but I think when you write it down, when you focus in on all of the things that could go wrong, all of the things that could have an impact, you can plan for them a little bit, at least plan for the things that you can control. And they're down there, they're written down, and so you're aware of them, you have thought about them. So I think the relevancy part of the SMART equation is very important. What you do and what you dream needs to make sense with your lifestyle, your own ethics, the time that you're living in, and the situation that you are in. And finally, T for time-based, that is where it really kind of goes back to that fact that you don't need to achieve this all at once. Give yourself the grace to achieve your goals a step at a time. Every single step you take is meaningful. The first time I was here for 6 weeks, the time flew by. So next time I was here 8 weeks. So I extended that time by 2 weeks. This time I've been here for over 10 weeks. Again, I've improved on the previous year. Next year, the goal is 12 weeks, or sorry, 16 weeks. But if it comes down to maybe only doing 3 months, so 12 weeks, I'm okay with that. But I have a time-based goal for probably the next 5 or 6 years. In 5 years, I will be just turning 70. And at that point in time, I will take a look at all of this again, because circumstances might change. Everything might change. Be flexible, but plan. Write out your plans, think about them. Use a tool of some kind, like I've used the SMART system. There's other systems out there. But use something that will allow you to clarify and to logically go through your goals and your dreams. And we all have those, even in retirement. Just because we're retired doesn't mean that we stop wanting things or we stop having dreams and goals for our life. It's just a different chapter. And so our goals and dreams are different from when we used to work, but they're just as meaningful, and sometimes they can be absolutely amazing. I wanted to make this video because I firmly believe that a lot of us carry some beautiful dreams very quietly, but we're afraid to look at them closely. I'm here to say that looking at your dream closely doesn't ruin the dream. If anything, it actually may allow you to live it. This is me choosing design over wishing, steps over fantasy, and living a life that fits no matter where I'm standing. All right, this is it for this week. If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the comment section below the video, and I will see you all next week at my regular time. Bye.